Hello, everyone. I hope everybody is well. I'm out of the dark tonight, for a while anyway. We'll see how long it lasts. It's good to see everyone. Hey, Just Pam. So good to see you. I'm glad that you got here. Hey, Lynn. So nice to see you. Hey, Unsolved Crimes. It's always good to have you here. Hey, Truth Justice. Glad you made it. Hey, D. Ashley. Good to have you. Hey, John. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Hey, Six Pack. How are you? Hey, Vince. Hey, Melodramatic Monday. Oh, yeah, I love my plants. I'm a Hoya person. I collect Hoyas. So, yeah, I'm a bit over the top with it. Hello, DJR Dave. Welcome, welcome, everyone. So good to have you all here. I am feeling better. I'm still having a lot of soreness in my ribs from all the coughing that I've been doing. Viral pneumonia will kind of do that for you. So yeah, it's been a really long 10 days, but I'm really glad to be back. I'm feeling really good. I still have a cough, but hopefully that won't bother us tonight. So we're gonna hope for the best. Oh, Unsolved Crimes, you're so sweet. Thank you so very much. So I hope everybody's doing well. We're in the midst of a horrific heat wave here in Central Illinois, something that's not usual for this part of our state for sure. It's been in the high 90s with a heat index over 100, 109 today. I think it's supposed to be 110 or 111 tomorrow. Needless to say, with my asthma, I'm not going outside. I am staying indoors and away from that. We did not have the storms. Hey, Sally Ann, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We didn't get any storms here since we're right on the river. Our city, it kind of splits the storms either north or south of us. So we get kind of lucky when there's really bad storms. So yeah, it's been rough, really rough for a lot of people. And I really feel for them because for all of us who have breathing issues, it's really not fun for sure. But yeah, the soreness in my ribs is really bad. So just bear with me. I've got a muscle relaxer in me. So hopefully I won't get too crazy on you all. But I've just missed you. I mean, being off all last week was really hard. So I kind of want to get into it. One of the things that I'm going to start doing on a regular basis is I'm going to, every live stream that I do, I'm going to have I don't want to call it a showcase because that sounds really bad. And I'm not sure what to call it, but I'm going to feature a missing person. I just think it'll help get people out there whose cases aren't getting enough talk about. So I thought we would start off with that tonight, and just give me a second to pull up her flyer because I want to share it with you guys. Hold on one second here. So we're going to talk her. It's going to be about Bethany Leanne Markowski is the person that I am going to feature tonight. She disappeared on March 4th, 2001 in Jackson, Tennessee. She weighed 95 pounds at the time of her disappearance. She was 11 years old. She was 4'8". She had brown hair, green eyes. She was a white female. They have age progressed her by the FBI on the wanted poster or the missing person poster. And this is her age as of 29 years old. She was last seen wearing a green shirt, blue jeans, and black shoes at the time of her disappearance. She was missing her baby molars. As I said, Bethany was 11 years old, and she was last seen by her father in the parking lot of the Old Hickory Shopping Mall in Jackson, Tennessee. Her parents were going through a very nasty divorce and custody battle. And on the afternoon of March 4th, 2001, he told authorities that he had taken Bethany to the mall and she had gone into the mall by herself and he was going to nap in the car and wait for her. After 2 hours, Bethany was still not back to the car, so he went into the mall to find her, but was unable to locate her. The investigation could not place Bethany inside that mall. There was no video of her going in to any of the stores. There was no video of her going actually into the mall or exiting the mall at all. In fact, the last time that anyone saw Bethany was, I believe, a day before this day in Little Rock, Arkansas, with her father. She had gone on a trip to Little Rock with her father to visit friends. So yeah, highly suspicious. Her mother is just beside herself. Hold on a second here. I'm going to pull this up. So I want to talk about this. It's been 20 years since Bethany went missing, and it starts the day that she was reported missing on the March 4th. Her father was separated from her mother, and they were having a contentious divorce proceeding. He told authorities that he watched her go into the mall while he stayed in the car and napped. I found that a little suspicious myself because as a parent, I can't even imagine, and a grandparent, I can't even imagine letting an 11-year-old go into the mall by themselves, and especially a girl. And I know that sounds terrible, but I just can't even imagine an 11-year-old we're talking. I know people think kids grow up quicker today, but I just don't think, I mean, that's 20 years ago. I still wouldn't have done it 20 years ago. Hey, Digital. It's so good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Shady Lady. Good to see you too. And Levi Ridge. So he stayed in the car, took a nap, and he went looking for her when she didn't show up. But as I stated, authorities could not turn up any proof that Bethany entered or exited that mall. A special agent with Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Kathy Ferguson, told People magazine that they believe she was last seen with her father the day before on a visit to friends of his in Little Rock, Arkansas, which was 200 miles away. Now, just to be clear, her father has never been named a suspect in this case. but he's never been cooperative and he's not participated in the investigation at all. Hey, AJ, welcome. I'm so good to see you. So happy to see you. Hello, Olivia, CJK. It's good to have you guys. Thanks for stopping in. Bethany's mom, meanwhile, has been working with law enforcement to establish a Tennessee Missing Children's Day. It's an outgrowth of the annual vigils that she held on her daughter's date of disappearance and taps into her volunteer work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that highlights the plight of other families who are searching for loved ones. She says it feels like it was yesterday, and it feels like that she was never really here as well. It's kind of hard to explain, she said. She's been gone way longer than I ever had her. The pain and the hurt and the memories, that's a tough one on parents and siblings and family members. Not only do you lose the person, but after a while, you start losing the memory of them, how they looked, how they smelled. And that's really hard. It's really hard. I feel so bad for this mother. And this is the age enhanced photo that they did of what she should look like or could look like today at the age of 29. Bethany would now be 31. And multiple reported sightings in the first months after she disappeared included a claim that a woman tried to enroll a child matching Bethany's description in a school, claiming that the child's father had custody. But the woman and the child never returned to the school. Somebody out there knows where Bethany is and what happened to her. And I really think that the Lord will move somebody's heart that knows what happened to Bethany, and they will tell us. None of us will ever stop believing that we can find Bethany, and certainly not Bethany's mother. I guess the thing that keeps me going is the fact that I'm her mom, says Carter. If I stop, everybody stops. Not looking for Bethany is just not an option. She continues. She always had a smile on her face. She has the biggest heart. She couldn't stand for people to make fun of old people or kids with disabilities or kids that were poor. She didn't like it at all. She always stood up for the underdog. At this point, it's 20 years, adds Carter. I could care less if anybody spends a second in jail or prison or whatever. I just want to bring Bethany home. Anyone with information about Bethany is asked to call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-824-3463 or email tips to tbi@tn.gov. So I wanted to share that with you guys because, hey, Tech Death, it's good to see you. Yes, Tech Death is who is responsible for the fantastic music that you guys listen to prior to my live streams and at the end of my live streams. So check him out. He has a YouTube channel. He's amazing. He's a great artist. And I can't say enough about him. He's just a great person. And yeah, Sally Ann, I agree with you. She sounds like she was a really special little girl. And it's so sad that she's still missing out there. It just truly is. So while we were on the subject of this, one of the things that I wanted to also talk about is something that is important to me. You guys all know that I lost my son, and in losing him, I was put in contact with an international organization called the Compassionate Friends. The Compassionate Friends is, like I said, it's an international organization for parents who have lost children. It's an amazing organization. I can't say enough about it. And if you know anyone who has lost a child or may be going through something where that may become the outcome, getting them involved in this organization would be, I would say, highly beneficial. I always get asked the question, when should that happen? And that's kind of just play it by ear. I think it was about 2 months after I lost my son, that I was actually introduced to the group. And at that time, I was living in Colorado. When I came back to Illinois, I started the local chapter of the Compassionate Friends because we didn't have one. And that was a really important thing for me to do in his name. It was something that I felt compelled to do, I guess I should say. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I'm going to share something with you that, hold on a second, if I can find it. Here it is. I want to share something first that Becky Patty wrote 14 hours ago. And hopefully in sharing this with you, what she says, then when I talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about, it'll make a little bit more sense. But Becky says that it has now been 5 years and 4 months since she lost Libby, and she still feels the same. And she says, Libby, we will get him. We'll never give up. It has been 4 months, 4 months ago today, that our world as we knew ceased to exist. I think she wrote this 4 months after Libby passed away, but she reshared it yesterday. They told us she was gone. We were thrown into a club that we never chose to be in. And this club has no rule book. Since that time, life has been like a roller coaster ride without the seatbelt. You hang on, hoping not to fly out. We think of her first thing as we get out of bed and continue until we climb back in bed, with her being our last thoughts. The easy thing to do would be to let go and just go crazy. And then maybe you could forget for a while. But we refuse to do that. There are too many counting on us to be strong. Finding her killer is our number one priority. It is never out of our minds. But we feel helpless. We do all we can to assist in the investigation, but we feel we cannot seem to do enough. Then there is life. It is the little things people not close to the situation don't see. Like when the insurance company sends you new insurance cards and her name isn't on there. When the dentist office calls for their reminder for the girls' dentist appointments, but it only say Kelsey's name. Or when you go into the school website to add lunch money and Libby is no longer there. She is disappearing to the world. She is evaporating in front of me. I cannot let that happen. For as long as it takes, and whatever it takes, Libby, I love you, and I will fight with all I have to make sure the world never forgets you. You will never disappear. I have faith that this man will be caught, and then our family may be able to begin to heal. Until that day, we will search. I would like to thank everyone, family, community, county, state, nation, and global, who have sent notes, cards, messages, and letters, for all the support you have given. Some days those kind words are what gets us through and gives us strength. thank you. I think of her words and I think of the pain that she's going through, and it breaks my heart because she's right. No one ever imagines or expects to join that club, the club of losing a child. And to lose a child in a violent manner is the most horrific thing that most of us could ever begin to imagine. I do believe that Becky is stronger than a lot of people ever could imagine. But I will say this, because I've always been considered to be that way too. Everyone is always telling me how strong I am. And I want to tell you that there are days when you don't want to be strong. There are days when you don't feel like being strong. Listening to what she has to listen to on a daily basis on all social media platforms takes its toll. And I know she cares about what's going on with the case. So she wants to stay on top of what people are talking about and what's going on out there. So it is so hard to not want to tune in and read and listen. And it's hard to take that negativity. It's so hard. So one of the things I wanted to tell you is I talked about when I started my group here locally, I talked about the gifts of grief. There are gifts that we get with our grief. And it's very difficult in the very early stages of grief after losing your child, imagining what possibly could be a gift in all of that pain. But anything positive or any gift that we receive as a result of our child or children's death, trust me, we would gladly give back. If only we could have them back with us again. And since that isn't possible, then trying to accept the gifts as a positive, it's very hard for a bereaved parent to do. And I know what most people think. You're crazy. Nothing good can come from the death of a child. And trust me, I thought the same thing at the death of my son for a very long time, especially when I first started my own grief journey. I attended a seminar from the Compassionate Friends on training leaders to lead the groups. And I met some of the most amazing people from all over who had been on this path and journey much, much longer than I had. Some of them 30 and 40 years out from losing their children. And I learned, and I began to rethink how I was handling my own grief. I began to see positives in my life as a result of his death. And I knew that I had to use them in my new normal, because that's what we all become. We have a new normal in our life. Do you remember that one special person who was there for you when you lost someone that you loved in your life? That friend, that person that you could talk to, or who would just sit and listen to you if you wanted to cry, or if you wanted to scream or yell or whatever. They always let you sit and talk about your precious child. They just listen. That was probably and most possibly for everyone the first real gift of grief, is that one person who was able to do that for them. And God bless them. They don't try to give you advice. They certainly don't tell you, I know how you feel, because no one that's not lost a child knows how you feel. Maybe they came over and mowed your grass. Maybe they brought you, food. Maybe they brought you lunch or a coffee. The other gift of grief is the courage to talk about it. And I really believe that that is a gift. When you walk into a Compassionate Friends meeting for the first time, it is absolutely terrifying to see all of these people and know all the things that you have in common is the death of a child. And you have to go around and listen to stories about how these children died. Being able to talk about it is courageous. Becky is courageous. Anna is courageous because they're able to talk about their children. And it is a gift. It's not easy. One of the next gifts that we receive in our grief is hope. Becky posted on Twitter just this past week about having hope. I've said for months and months on Delphi's Daughters in Reddit that without hope, in this case, we have nothing. And when you can go even further than that, because without hope in life, what do we have? We have to have hope. We can't take away their hope. And so people who just sit back and say, well, this case is never going to be solved, that takes away their hope. Keep that to yourself if that's how you feel, because that hurts. It's very hurtful because it takes away their hope. And we should never take away their hope. I often think about the parents that I've met over the years through Compassionate Friends and all of the gifts that I've received. And I think the most special are the signs that my child is still with me and is nearby. And I know that those signs are there. I believe in them and I trust in them. And some of those signs can be things as simply as pennies from heaven, dragonflies, cardinals appearing in my backyard. I had a crazy female cardinal one year who would not stop sitting on my windowsill and pecking at the window. She did it for about a month. I didn't know what her problem was. I didn't know why she wanted to come in the house so badly. Until a friend told me that was my son coming to visit me every day. Butterflies, rainbows, flocks of geese, deer standing in a meadow. Those are signs that we hold dear, those parents that have lost children. And we take those and hold on to those. And to me, they may seem insignificant to you or to others, but they are not insignificant to any of us. They always appear at a time when we need them most. And they're just special gifts. And they help get us through the darkest of days. And I hope that Becky and Anna are getting those gifts. And I believe they are. Some gifts that we receive in grief are changes to our own personalities. Hey, Teresa. Good evening. It is so good to see you. Welcome. I'm more compassionate than I have ever been in my life. I learned watching my son's illness and watching him go through cancer that there was so many things that I thought of that were important that aren't. I learned how to prioritize much better and what things matter most in life, most of all, are usually not what we think. I know that when our children leave us this way, the most important thing is we always want to have them back, but we can't. And we know that as bereaved parents. But the fact that they were able to do the ball fields in the girls' honor, that's something that will outlive everyone. That legacy that they were able to create there in Delphi in the girls' memories was something that they both loved so much. Just means so much to me because I know that the girls are smiling down and thinking, wow, look at the gift that came out of such a tragic event. And one of the last gifts that I want to mention is the gift of memories of our children. Many of us think about what goes through our minds when we first lose our child. And it's like a videotape that plays over and over again in our minds. And that plays for a long time, and it just keeps going over and over and over again. And every time we lay down and we try to sleep or rest, you just, you can't, because that tape is constantly playing, whether it be of the funeral or whatever, what of the actual event or whatever. There's some point along the way that the memories of our child change in our grief. And in the very beginning, all we think about is how they died, how we lost them. And the next thing that happens is that as we're moving forward in that journey, then the first thing we think about is not how they died, but that they lived. And we start thinking about them in life. And it is so cathartic to go through. And there's no easy way through it. There's no easy way through grief. Grief is not something you get over. It's not something, I keep hearing people say that when Bridge Guy's caught and he goes to jail or whatever happens to him happens, that's going to be the resolution for all of this. And, Mike and Becky and everybody involved, Anna, Kelsey, whatever, they're all going to miraculously just start to heal and get better. That's not how this works for them, for any of us that have lost our children. This is something we live with for the rest of our life. Every time we have a family gathering and the table is set, there's a place setting that's empty of someone who should be there. And yeah, they will heal. They will learn to live life without Libby and live life without Abby. And they've been doing it for 5 years now, going on 6. And something will happen. They will be out somewhere, maybe driving, or they will be at a resort or something. Something will happen that brings everything flooding right back to them as if it happened that very day. Anniversaries, birthdays, Christmas, all of those things that we all take for granted and that we just have that time with our family. Um, those are things that people who belong to this club where we've lost our children, those are the things that we think about and start dreading before they even happen, because they're still difficult. And John says it very well here. John, thank you. There may be closure to the case, but there's no closure to the grief of the loss. There is no closure. And you can't replace one child with another. I can't tell you how many people told me after I lost my son to just have another baby. You can't. Having a child, it's a person. You don't replace one person with another. So whether or not we recognize our gifts, that's another thing. We have to understand how they reshape us and reshape our core. And I just wanted to give you an idea. This is an excellent organization. I saw that AJ dropped the link in the chat. So go check them out. Seriously, if you have family or friends who have gone through something like this and they're not aware, there is so much to read. There's books. There's just so much. And you can, thank you, Teresa, very, very much. There's so much out there that you can gather to try to learn how to help others. And one of the most important things, and it resonated with me when Becky said it, is that you're so fearful of the memory of them leaving forever. Because you start forgetting what they sounded like, what they smell like, all of those things. And my biggest fear was to forget. And that others would forget. So I think it's really important to just take that step. I just wanted everybody to know that, this is real life we're talking about every day. Here, when we discuss Delphi or Flora or any of the other cases where children or loved ones have died or are missing, these are real people who go through these emotions every day and try to find a way to get up in the morning and go to work and continue their life, whether it be as a parent to other children or, whatever it is that they have to do in life to still survive. A lot of times when you don't even want to get out of bed. And to think that Becky not only had to deal with all of that, but she was dealing with cancer on top of it. Man, my heart just goes out to her. What a strong and wonderful woman. So with that, let's jump in and start talking a little bit more about some of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I did want to put this up. I'm going to show you guys because I think it's important to note that law enforcement is still out there doing everything that they can. And I know there's a lot of people that don't believe that. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to get this stupid StreamYard makes me mad sometimes. I just shrunk it. Hang on a second, guys. Now what did I do with it? Where did you go? There you are. There it is. So law enforcement is still actively out there arresting people for child pornography that has something to do with the Anthony Schatz profile. I'm positive. These cases just keep happening. Logansport, Kokomo, Peru. I mean, all the little towns in and around Delphi, they just keep finding more. There was another one arrested They didn't talk much about this guy, though. I'm going to have to look him up on my case to see just what they charged him with. But this guy's name is Richard Crowley. He's 31. He is from Lafayette. And that's his picture there. And he was arrested on preliminary charges of possession of child pornography. And this was federally done. So this was the FBI that made the arrest. So I guarantee you that they are still looking into that Anthony Schatz profile, and they're finding out more and more individuals because of that raid. So I don't need this up anymore. So this was something that I wanted to put up here because I thought we talked about this the other night. Let me see if I can get this up here. Hold on. Yeah, put that back. Oh, darn it. What did I do with it? There it is. Sorry, guys. I was going to try and make it full screen. But anyway, this is something that I told you guys about, the Flora 4 Reddit sub that was just created in the middle of May. So just a month ago. They have done so much work on getting resources, investigating. I mean, it's amazing. And I know I told you guys to go check it out, but I mean, this is some of the stuff that's there. But I thought that this was interesting because, oh, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, there we go. This is by county in Indiana. So this basically shows us, Alicia, I wonder why. She says that Richard Crowley's recent arrest isn't on my case. It's been bugging me. Yeah, I wonder why. That is weird. Well, let's give it time because they didn't arrest until the 8th. So that was just last week. So last Wednesday, I think. So maybe we should just give it a little bit more time and check it out. But you're right, because that's weird. He should be on there. And I agree, Teresa. Thank goodness that they're out there looking for these guys and they're getting them, because thank you, Lynn. You guys are so sweet. It's important to me. They get these guys off the street. I'm sure it is to all of you as well. And there's just so many of them. That's what's so scary. But I thought that this was interesting because we were talking about sundown towns, and we were talking about population and racism in Indiana, and especially in northern part of Indiana. And I just wanted you guys to see that in the counties, like here's White County, it really tells you what the population, I mean, you can go in here and look and see what the population is of the county. It's really kind of hard here. Hold on. There's Cass, there's Howard, and there's Carroll. So this is Carroll County right here. And I found it interesting. And that's something that they worked to put on Reddit. So you can kind of go in and look and kind of see. When we're talking about Kiara, Carolee and Kiani, or Cariel and Kiani. And this is the Reddit sub. Right now they've got 280 subscribers, and in a month's time, I just really want to get their names out there to send them some support, because they are doing an absolutely wonderful job at investigating. And some of the stuff that they have in here is, hold on a second. Here they've got fires in Indiana. Here's a video collection of unexplained arson fires in Indiana. I watched this and looked at this. It's really worth taking a look at when you're looking at what's happening in Flora and around the counties around there. This is the Indiana Department of Homeland Security's residential fire map. So it shows you where all the fires, the residential fires, are happening. And this is a NASA thermal data map that shows you where active fires are, which I thought was amazing resources that they've got. And plus, then they have all of these resources. It's just amazing, all the stuff. And I talked to a couple of experts. I talked to a fireman on Reddit about about Flora, and I asked him to come on live and talk to us, and he didn't want to do that because he wasn't involved in the fire itself. But he said that there are way too many suspicious fires in this area. He has no doubt that arson was what happened in Flora, and he also does not believe that it was the family or Galen that did it. He also said that he thinks it's somebody who knows about accelerants, because one of the things about Flora is there was accelerant used, but I'm not positive by everything that we've been able to find out so far that they're being able to decide what it was that was used. And I think it may have been an accelerant that they're not used to seeing. And Unsolved Crimes, that's wonderful. Everybody go check out Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. She has a YouTube channel as well. And she's just posting a breakdown of the fires tomorrow. So anything that we can do to get people's eyes on this, I'm all for. I did not, Pam. I do not know who this person is behind this subreddit. I know that the user is Meow Zedong. I do not know who that is. I do have plans in the future to reach out to them to find out if there's anything I can do to assist them, but I have not done that yet. I think it's just because I've been so sick and I haven't had the gumption. I will let you guys know that I did send an email to the Indianapolis Colts marketing department. I let them know that I was interested in them meeting the donation, matching the donation they gave to the Abby and Libby Fund for Flora. And I let them know that I thought that it was not a good look for them to be supportive of what happened to Abby and Libby and not be supportive of the four sisters who lost their lives 105 days earlier. So I do want to let you guys know I did that. Absolutely, Truth Justice. Absolutely, they are. They are doing a bang up job. And thanks, CJK. I don't know if I will get anywhere with that, But I thought, if I don't, we could do a letter writing campaign to them, because somebody mentioned to me, and it may have been Tech Death, I don't remember. He and I talk a lot about the case. And he said, I think it may have been him, who said they may not know about Flora. But I'll tell you that Flora was huge and then in the press and everywhere and talked about all over Indiana before Abby and Libby happened. And I think you're right, Alicia. I think if we can put a little pressure and let them know what's happening in the Flora case, I think they will match it. And it's just things like that, I just want to get the girls their case out there. It's almost as if the case has gone forgotten and people aren't, talking about it. And it's, that's something that I feel we need to try to promote, to get people talking about it. So there is something on here that I want to go over with you guys. Hang on, I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Now, there are documents that they have posted on here, and it's about the fire. And there's a lot of information I did not know we had. I didn't know this stuff was out there, but it is. And they've placed it on the subreddit, and the legal documents are there. Some of them are redacted, of course. And exactly, it was 2.5 weeks before the Delphi murders, it was declared arson. Thank you so much, Sally Ann. You're so kind. I think you're right. I think it was Pat McAfee who challenged him. I think you're right, Alicia. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do think you're right. He's not a punter for them anymore, though. So I don't know if that would work, but we'll see what happens with what I wrote. So this person, OK Vegetable 6642, this was some questions that they had about the legal documents that were posted about the fire. And I just thought that this was really interesting. Page 5. Who was the woman at the top of the stairwell saying, "Me and my kids are out"? Is this an unknown person at the scene? No, that was the other tenant that lived upstairs on the back stairwell. I can answer that question. Page 6. Was there an explosion? Was the fire alarm what exploded? And there's a highlighted portion. And if you remember the other night when we were talking about it, there was intense heat at that fire alarm in the hallway, at the top of the stairs in the hallway outside the girl's bedroom. There were 2 places in the house who had signs of extreme heat. One was a utility closet off of the kitchen, and the other one was upstairs, which I thought was interesting. Was the power out, and was this intentional? And I don't know the answer to that. Was the unfinished basement being actively worked on, and was there construction being done on the home? I don't believe there was any construction being done on the home that I'm aware of. But I mean, I don't know anything about that part. I don't know anything about the basement. The other tenant was sleeping in the living room right next to an exit. Who is the tenant's fiance? The tenant collects their things to leave the property. Both occupants had gotten out safely. Was this coincidence? Again, I don't know any of those questions, the answers to those questions. Why is Randall stoking the fire? When did Randall arrive? Why did they let Randall be the fire marshal in charge if he was at the scene and therefore a suspect by default? Those are good questions, honestly. But some of the things that were put as comments below, I thought was even more telling. How did Yoder get burns to his hands and face if he exited each time due to heavy smoke? Drew Yoder was hurt on November 21st when he responded to a fire at a home in Flora. Yoder suffered burn damage in his lungs as well as burns to his hands and his forehead. That fire was so hot, it doesn't surprise me at all that he had burns to his hands and burns to his face at all. If Dissinger sent Yoder, a Carroll County sheriff, to get the fire engine, how can this statement be true? The one thing that we need to remember is that these officers were also volunteer fire department or volunteer firemen. I didn't realize that either. I don't think anybody talked about the fact that Dissinger and Yoder were volunteer firemen on the Flora Fire Department. So Dissinger actually sent Yoder to go get the fire engine from the Flora Fire Department 500 feet away. He said the third time is when things went bad. All I remember is waking up in the ambulance with Dissinger standing over me, telling me that everything was going to be okay. He went into the house 3 times, Yoder did, to try to rescue the girls. And the third time is when he basically passed out. The fire was so intense and the smoke was so thick and black and it was burning his lungs. And I thought again that this question, we talked about this the other night. If they were trained volunteer firefighters, why would they break out the windows? This would only increase the flames inside the house. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why was Dissinger familiar with the back staircase to the second floor bedrooms where the young girls slept? These are questions that need to be answered. Was he called there before? Was there problems at that upstairs staircase outside the house where the other apartment was? I mean, something just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, this is not the first fires where Dissinger was the first on the scene. Dissinger has yet to speak publicly since the incident, but it's not the first time he has put his own life at risk for the sake of others. In April of 2009, he pulled a 54-year-old man from a burning apartment in the 400 block of Clem Street. The man was severely burned but survived his injuries. A month later, Dissinger was first to respond to another tragedy, a fire that killed a mother and 2 children. He broke out a bottom bedroom window and removed a 4-year-old girl, but medics were unable to revive her. Also, there are rumors that Drew Yoder was Dissinger with him, was one of the first officers on the scene to the Delphi case. And this has not yet been verified. Now, I know we've all heard of the hero effect. And I'm not going to throw these guys under the bus. That is not what I'm here for. I mean, these guys, until that's proven, but you've got to think about things. because when you're looking at cases that aren't solved, you have to try to figure out why. And a lot of times, and the percentage, it's in here somewhere in all of her resources about arson fires. Firefighters are notorious for being arsonists. Notorious for being arsonists. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's see. Somebody talked about the electrical part of this house. Now, it was an older house. It doesn't sound to me like there were a lot of things that could have been wrong, because Galen had already called to have someone come out and fix an electrical outlet in the kitchen that didn't have a cover and something else wrong with it. She had done that like a week and a half prior to the fire. She also at the same time told them about the fact that the back door was not locking and wanted that fixed as well. That had not been fixed as of the date of the fire, which the back door was open. So that was the other thing. Galen moved in July, and the other tenant moved in October. And the insurance company did send private fire investigators to investigate the origin of the fire. I don't know if they're the ones who blew the whistle on what was going on with Randall or not, but they definitely are. Fire investigator is the one who said that he thought there were mistakes made and that the fire investigation was not proceeding according to the way it should have been by fire manuals and how to do it. Hey, Jennifer, how good to see you. Hey, it's so good to see you, Jennifer. You're away on vacation and you're here. It's really good to see you. That investigator made it clear that he did not agree with Dennis Randall's findings, but there's issues with this investigator not keeping records correctly and whatnot, according to the defense. Just another rabbit hole and delay for justice for the girls. And I agree. Every chance they get, they try to throw some kind of a wrench in it to keep you from looking at the bigger picture. But anyway, there is the rumor that Mike and Becky's appraisal business did an appraisal back in September of 2016 of this house and property. But I don't know that that's factual. That is a rumor. But I just thought that those comments on that were extremely interesting to me. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up, hold on one second. Let me go back here to my notes, to my notebook. I know it was in here. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. So this is what I said the other night that got me kind of about this whole, the Flora Fire Department being so close to the residents. It was less than like a half a minute walk from the house to the fire department. The Tri-Township Volunteer Fire Department, based in Delphi, responded from nearly 10 miles away first. They were the first fire department on the scene. I think that's odd. What else were we talking about? Was talking about Greason, who was the state fire marshal at the time. So the fire happened on November 21st, 2016, and Kiara, Cariel, and Kiani lost their lives in the fire. And a day later, the fire was ruled undetermined. On January 28th of 2017, 2 weeks before the Delphi murders, the state fire marshal says the fire was intentionally set. On May 25th of 2017, the fire is ruled intentional arson by Homeland Security, and a new Indiana State Police detective takes over the case. And that happened in May 25th of 2017. It took him that long. That, to me, is just crazy. But anyway, June 22nd of 2017, the Carroll County prosecutor Robert Ives asked investigators not to release information on the fire. On June 26, 2017, a fire investigator with the Indiana State Fire Marshal's office resigns after questions about his investigation arise. Of course, we all know this to be Dennis Randall. On August 26, 2017, a new reward poster is released. $5,000 reward. November the 11th of 2017, Carroll County prosecutor Robert Ives resigns. On January 1st of 2018, the new prosecutor, Nick McClellan, takes over. On January 8th of 2018, Todd Trent is named the new fire chief in Flora. Because as we know, the fire chief in Flora was Dennis Randall's son. The Flora fire started in the early morning hours on November 21st at 102 East Columbia Street in Flora, Indiana. By 3:30 a.m., the house was up in flames. Chastity Fox described it. She lived across the street. She said, "The mother hollering for someone to save her babies, and then the children yelling back, is all she will ever remember." The first 911 call was received at 3:30 a.m. According to witnesses and Carroll County Comet archived police logs, it is going to have an impact on this community forever. I'm going to always have the screaming in my head and my mind. We were all praying on our front porches and praying to God that he would just help and move those children out of there. And I guess God had other plans. The first to arrive on scene was Dissinger and Yoder at approximately 3:30 a.m. State Fire Marshal Jim Greason praised the responding fire departments for their efforts and claimed a dozen fire departments aided Flora, which did not occur. There were not 12 fire departments aiding in that fire. Greason praised the efforts of the police officers who tried to rescue the children. I want to thank those 2 police officers who risked their lives to try to save 4 children and that mother and get them out of that house. I know that they risk their lives daily in what they do, but today and this morning, they went above and beyond the call. Greason, who also thanked local fire departments, he did not offer any condolences or well wishes to the seriously injured mother who was recovering from her injuries suffered in the fire in a burn unit in Indianapolis. I found that really weird. The state fire marshal makes all of these comments to the press about the officers, about the firemen, and doesn't say anything to Galen. Canine units were brought in to search for traces of accelerants, and none were found. State Fire Marshal Jim Greason inspected the scene himself and consulted with investigators. Nothing jumped out at him, he said. So I thought this was also interesting, you guys. Indiana does not have a mandatory reporting law for fire agencies when a fatal fire occurs. This data is collected by the Indiana State Fire Marshal investigators through open sources, media reports, partner agencies, and other submitted documentation. There is not a mandatory law in Indiana for fire departments to report fires that are fatal. The fire marshal has to get this information from the media, partner agencies, and other submitted documentation. What kind of crap is that? Excuse me, but that just seems ludicrous to me. Absolutely. But wow. So let's go back up here and let me look at some of these comments, because we got a lot of people in here watching, and I know a lot of people are talking. So kind of let's see what so let's see. Yeah. So yeah, Daisy, it does mean something. It means that somebody wanted to have the value of the home appraised for some reason. Usually that is for insurance purposes. You do an appraisal if you're going to up your insurance policy, or if you're going to do work on the home of some kind, or some kind of upkeep on the home, or make changes to the home. You will have it appraised. Most people don't have appraisals on property for no reason. There is reasons for appraisals. And if this was because of insurance fraud, then yeah, that would be a reason why the house was appraised. Truth and Justice said that you need an appraisal to collect on insurance if you don't have anything to value the property at. So yes, if they hadn't had one done in however many years or whatever, they would need to have had that done prior to. But like I said, the owners of this property have many fires that are attributed to possible insurance fraud. You just have to go back and look for them. I found 4. So it is significant. Let's see. Let us see. Yeah, and that's probably true. Like I said, if they were going to up the insurance on the home for some reason, or if they were getting ready to do renovations on the home for some reason, again, that would have been a reason to have the home appraised. But it sounds like the home needed a lot of work, which could be another reason to have it appraised if they were going to go in and start making repairs and do things to it. You would want the appraised value before that happened. Let's see. But yeah, there's a lot of, hey, Captain, how are you? So good to see you here. And yeah, nobody's saying that the appraisers would have anything to do with the fire at the property. Never implied that. Didn't mean to imply that. Was just making note that the house had been appraised and that it had been appraised by the Patties. I found that interesting because that is a tie. Let's see. I do agree with that. I'm going to go with that, that I can understand that. I think it is much bigger than anyone has suspected. I know I have heard now for 5 years that these 2 cases have nothing to do with one or the other. That could very well be. Obviously, that could be true. It also could be that they do have something to do with one another, and people don't want us to think that. So, I mean, that's, you know. Let's see. Hey, Jane from the country. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. No, Pam, it was appraised before the fire. I agree with that. I'm just reading some comments, guys. There's a lot going on here. People always say to, follow the money. I don't know that they're homes. I know that there was a building that housed a lot of equipment, like it was a farm building or some kind of a warehouse that had a ton of equipment. It had all kinds of brand new air conditioner units, hot water heaters, things like that you would use in your business as a landlord for keeping, stock of in case your homes needed it. And they had recently put fresh hay up in the attic of this particular building like 2 days before, and the whole building went up in I mean, they lost everything. That was one of the fires, and that one happened, I believe. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. I don't want to misspeak, but it happened before the Flora fire, and then there was another one a year before that, and I think two more the year before that. So yeah, they have been involved in suspicious fires. I don't know about that as far as Yoder being an investigator for Delphi. I don't know the answer to that. I think he's just a sheriff's deputy. Oh, excuse me. CJK says, I don't know why the insurance companies don't deep dive. Sure, they could find info online about fires, collectively investigate unless they're on the take. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I would like to know how much has been paid out. That would be. Oh no, Daisy, I wasn't trying to blame Becky or Mike at all for anything to do with these fires. Absolutely nothing. Not at all. Let's see. Yeah, I agree with that. I keep, every time you bring it up, people go off the rails. I mean, literally off the rails, angry that there's no correlation, and they don't know that. There's no way to know that. They have no way to know that. We don't know enough about either case. Climate Tech fire was August 21st of 2013. I know I've seen talk about an accelerant that was used that is not something that's common. And, I said before, if there is a serial arsonist at play here, there's something going on, because there's just too many fires. The Holder family fire that happened in Logansport, that fire was very suspicious. I don't know if Alicia, do you know if they came out and said that fire was finally, did they end up saying it wasn't suspicious at the end, or? That's the one where they're the relatives of Levi and Logan Holder on his mom's side. Yeah, it's, John, it's one of the things that they don't really, it's an Indiana thing. It's not just counties. Indiana doesn't like to release anything on any of their investigations. But you have to look at motive. If we have an arson fire, you have to look at motive. What is the motive for why would someone do this? Why would someone start a fire? I don't believe it's to kill 4 little girls. Hey, Grizz. So good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. I've missed you. Hey, Perry. I didn't see you come in if you're here. It's good to see you. Cop Facts told us, if you go and look at motive and try to determine motive, you're going to find bridge guy more than likely, and you're also probably going to find whatever it is you're looking for in whatever case it is, if you can find motive. So what's the motive of the fire in Flora? Insurance payout? Could be a huge reason. Could it be, money and Truth and Justice says it. Sorry, guys. Truth and Justice says it really good. Money and greed. Number 1 reason for murder. Top reasons for murder. Money and greed. Causes people to do all kinds of things that you would never think that they were capable of doing. For sure. But is it race related? There was a guy on the Reddit sub for Flora 4 who talks about the fact that he grew up in young America. And he and his dad went to Flora to get a car fixed. This was when he was younger. And he said they went to this really well-known body shop repair place with their car to get it fixed. Drove in, stood there for well over 2 hours while other people came and went, were waited on, spoken to, and treated kindly, and they didn't even acknowledge them. They didn't even speak to them because they were from out of town. Nobody knew who they were. And it's that whole good old boy network kind of mentality in these small towns. A lot of times they are not welcoming of outsiders. And he said he grew up there and he knows that that's what this place was like. And you hear about it. And Daisy, I agree. I can't comprehend why anyone would want to hurt those little girls. Thanks, Melodramatic Monday. I would appreciate it if you would do that. It always comes down to real estate, land, money, greed. And this is true as well. An arsonist can escalate to double homicide. Look at David Boscovich from the 70s. He committed over 1,400 fires in New York prior to attempting stabbing of a 15-year-old. Then escalation. It happens. You're absolutely right. It happens. And there are so many fires in this area of Indiana that are suspicious. I cannot look away from wondering if there isn't a serial arsonist up there. Or, as she stated, somebody who escalated from arson to murder. It's very possible. I don't know what is going on with the Flora investigation? As far as I'm concerned, nothing. We don't hear anything. And the last time that the news media from around there, Wish TV for one, Fox 59 for another, went and asked what was happening in the investigation, they told them there are no updates. So no updates means nothing. You know, I mean, it's, you guys are upset and everybody's up in arms about Delphi not getting any updates. There's nothing out there about Flora and what's happened in for Flora in going on 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. And Pam's right. Serial arsonist, first responder, hero syndrome. Those things are all things that need to be looked at. Hey, Miss Thang, it's good to see you. Digital says, I'm not trying to blame the mother in any way, shape, or form, but didn't law enforcement say she wouldn't talk about who had visited the home or who had access? Maybe she was scared. Very well could be. You know what? This was my thought. They have tried to throw her under the bus by saying that this could be drug related. Maybe she owed somebody money because of drugs. I don't care what kind of drugs she may have been doing. Her little girls, all 4 of them, were taken from her in one of the most brutal fashions imaginable, burned alive. I'm sorry. I would be terrified to talk to anyone, especially when they said it was arson and it was deliberately done. She was in that home as well. Were they hoping that she also died? Those are the things that you have to put yourself in that position. And Digital's right. She could have been absolutely scared out of her mind. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sure that's part of the reason she left was fear, out of fear. Who would want to stay there? Being a Black single mother in a town that is completely white. I think the guy that posted that lives in Young America said he'd never seen Black people in Flora in his life until he heard about this. So I know people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to own up to the fact that there are racist situations in this country, but there are. And we have to look at that. And especially in this scenario, it has to be something we consider, no matter how painful it is. And I agree, Alicia, with the resignations, the false information, not knowing who to trust, the fact that they were pointing fingers at her, I don't blame her for 1 minute for getting the hell out of Dodge and going to her family where she can get love and support. To me, I just can't even imagine how alone that she must have felt at that moment. We sure didn't see the community rally around her like the community has rallied around Abby and Libby. There's a reason for that. CJK said that just read that ATF investigated some Gary fires. This is a travesty that is not getting the attention it deserves. Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. Now, the ATF was involved in the Monticello fire of the ISP sergeant and her daughter that we just went over. The ATF got called in on that, but that's because her husband's a judge. Daisy, I so agree with you. What is in the 911 call that would make them not want to withhold it? What possibly could be in a 911 call that would taint or hurt an investigation? Those are questions we need to ask. And I'm sure that that's true. That non-locking back door is how they gained access. I absolutely agree. Completely. So, and we do need more eyes on it. And the fact that we have somebody who's spending this kind of time over here on Reddit makes me happy. When I saw this was happening, they reached out to me and asked me if I'd join their subreddit. I was like more than happy to, because the more I looked at it, and like I said, all of the resources that are on here, there is, I mean, here is this wonderful resource about firefighter arson. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Give me a minute. I thought this was really interesting when I looked at it the other day. It says right here, slowly the fire service is shedding light on a situation that occurs rarely, but which is nevertheless serious. Some firefighters intentionally start fires. A very small percentage of otherwise trustworthy firefighters cause the very flames they are dispatched to put out. The incidence of illegal fire setting among the nation's fire and rescue personnel is not known precisely. Fire incident data does not generate many details about incendiary fires, and a suspect's occupation is rarely, if ever, included in the database. Ridiculous, right? Overall, relatively little research has been conducted on arson compared to other types of crimes. Even less information data is available about arsonists who are also public safety personnel. Most fire departments will never experience having a member indicted for arson, but for those that do, the impact is almost always significant. This report delves into the problem of firefighter arson and explains what some communities and states are doing to prevent it. These jurisdictions have taken bold steps by publicly stating that the problem exists, and they have acted to solve it. Given the far-reaching effects that criminal fire setting by a firefighter can cause, awareness and action are clearly necessary. The impact of firefighter arson can be severe. People die or are seriously injured, including fellow firefighters who respond to the call. Homes are destroyed. An arsonist from within the fire department can disgrace the whole department, and his actions diminish public trust. Several states that have experienced the crime of firefighter arson have developed new legislation that directly impacts the prosecution of firefighters accused of arson. Firefighter arson task forces have been organized to prevent the crime. Education, training, and appropriate criminal background checks and reference checks are key components of the program. Some of these proactive efforts are highlighted in this report to give fire service leaders ideas for their own departments. And it just goes on to tell you, it's a dangerous thing that they're doing. The thing that I found crazy about all of this is the fact that they don't keep statistics. I just was floored to find out that they just don't. And I just think that that is just not something that should be happening. We should be keeping track of this kind of stuff. They said that it is increasing. Firefighters are arson cases are on the uptick. And since nobody's keeping track of incendiary fires, it's hard to tell who's setting them and who's not. And yeah, I don't know. They've passed legislation to hopefully hope to try to, to change that. But man, I just, you know, I just go back to the fact that accountability, and we just need to have more people paying attention, looking at this stuff, investigating this stuff, and putting pressure on these investigators that are telling us, well, we're looking at Flora. We've got a couple of investigators on it. They look at it every couple of days and talk about it, but nothing's really happening. That's not good enough. 4 little girls lost their lives. And I guarantee you, if it was their little girls that lost their lives, if it was the governor of Indiana's daughters who lost their lives in that fire, you would damn well see something happening. And it just makes me sad just to think about it, and to think about them and what they went through that night, and how scared and terrified they had to have been. So you have to remember that this area is so tiny and so small. These counties have the same personnel, the same prosecutors, the same all kinds of things, sheriff deputies who are also volunteer firefighters. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So it's something that it's okay that you don't think that truth and justice. I'm not saying that I believe it either, but it's something that has to be looked into. Because after all, when we're doing an investigation, it's not about opinions. It's about facts and factual based evidence. And it's like, what are they doing to look at all this? What are they doing to look at all these unsolved arson, suspicious fires that are happening in their counties and surrounding counties? Why are they not being looked at more seriously? That's my point. And, I just think there's got to be a reason. We have to start asking questions. We have to start there. And I don't believe that, Corn Pop. From everything that I have read, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. The sister of Galen is still in the community trying desperately to get law enforcement to work with them. So I think there's a lot going on. It made me upset when Doug Carter said in the narrative that he said, where he kind of threw Galen under the bus. And I think that that's where that all stems from, where everybody started believing that it was the mom. And I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Absolutely do not buy it. And it's just ridiculous. It's so easy to point the fingers at her rather than have to point the fingers at your own. Who wants to think that it could be your own? It's easier to point the finger at mom. I'm sorry, it's not mom. I don't buy it. So I just I don't know. I just hope that us talking about it and keeping it out there will help do some good and bring some eyes back around to this case, and stop thinking that it's just an overdone deal. 6 years ago, these tragic fires happened, and all of these dead little girls, because if you go back and you look at these fires we're all talking about, they're all children, and the majority of them are all female. And that bothers me as well. I mean, it's just, all these things are questions that need to be raised. And especially if there's a serial arsonist out there. This mother was an exemplary mother. She worked more than one job. Her daughters were in every kind of activity imaginable. Her daughters were active in cheerleading. She drove them to Lafayette to partake in their cheerleading competitions. That is not a cheap activity to have your children in, just so you know. The traveling alone is difficult. She loved those girls. She spent everything she had on them. I'm sorry. I'm not a profiler, but I just don't buy it. I just won't. She was a mom that loved those little girls. So, anyway, thanks, Jane. I appreciate that. And it's possible, Alicia, it is very possible that he said that. But in doing that, he caused Galen a ton of pain because people absolutely grabbed a hold of that and just started talking horrible things about her. And, in my mind, that would be another reason for her to race the heck out of Dodge and go to where her family is and loves her. So the kids were loved and liked at school. You listen to anyone that talked about them, they were always singing and dancing, and they were just joyous little girls. They had, you can't tell me they didn't have a good home life. If they wouldn't have been in that kind of frame of mind all the time if their home life was something other than that. Her heart was absolutely crushed and broken that night when she lost them. And I just, I still don't know how she's able to make it through her day. I know how hard it is losing one. I can't imagine losing four at once. So guys, my voice is just about to break, so I'm going to call it a night for tonight. And I'm thankful that for all of you and that you all stuck with me tonight. I just love that you guys show up. And I think we always have a really good conversation. And for everybody that was in here tonight, even those of you who disagree or put in things that we were disagreeing with, please don't think it's personal, because it's not. I'm glad that you have your opinion and that you feel comfortable that you can come here and voice it, because nobody is going to not allow you to do that here. I want you to be able to voice your opinion. But we can agree to disagree and do it in a respectful way. And I hope that you feel respected when you're disagreed with on my channel, because that's what I really pray and hope for every single night that we talk. Oh, Pam, thank you so much for the super chat. How nice of you. Thank you so much. These babies deserve all the coverage that we can give them. I want their case solved just as bad as I want Abby and Libby's. And I definitely believe that they will get it. Hey, Joe. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I am too. It's been a long road, but I feel so much better. I just enjoy you guys coming, and I'm glad that we're here every time, and we can have these conversations, and your loyalty means a lot to me. I know that there's a lot of choices out there where you guys could be going to listen to your podcasts and getting information. And I appreciate that you want to listen to me. So thank you again. And again, I want to just tell you, anybody who has information regarding, I didn't put that up. Hold on a second and I will. Anybody who has information on Flora, please make sure that you contact this phone number. You do not have to give your name. You can do it in complete confidence. And, oh, Unsolved Crimes, thank you so much. You are wonderful. I love that you're here. I think you're amazing as well. I have subscribed to your channel as well. I'm looking forward to all the content that you're doing. We have to support one another and stick together. It's important. And Delphi and Flora are at the heart of a lot of things that are going on in this area. And I'm going to continue to keep plugging away and keep the light on it. But I think that people need, truth, justice, just know that you always need to have an escape plan. That's the most important thing. And if you have small children, please talk to them about fire and talk to them about an escape plan and what to do in case of a fire. We never think that unthinkable will happen until it does. And that is so important. I remember as a young child in school, we used to always have the fire marshal or the firemen show up and talk to us about fires and what we were to do to get out of our homes. And it's something that I don't know that they're still doing, but we need to talk about it more with our kids. And we all need to know that we have some sort of a plan. But anyway, thank you guys so much for everything. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. I will plan to be here on Thursday evening. And I'm not sure yet what I'm covering that night, but I definitely will put out a thumbnail ahead of time so you guys know. And I look forward to seeing you all then. Good night, everybody, and have a great rest of your evening.